Some people have asked for a ranking of the best abilities, but instead of ranking every single one, I'll just do something like the accessories video and name some particularly notable ones. And just like that video, if you're familiar with Final Fantasy V, nothing I say here will be very surprising, but let's start. First up is magic. Just all of it. Magic is busted in like every JRPG ever made, so no surprises that Final Fantasy V is among them. White magic has unmatched healing and buffing abilities, black magic just shits out damage even before the spells get boosted by the elemental rods, and it even has a couple cheeky debuff spells. Time magic is a standout because quick, haste, and slow guarantee your party is able to get dozens of turns before the enemy can act even once. Summon is a sort of fusion of white and black, with the high elemental damage combined with some great party buffs. Blue is a bit of an outlier because it's the least consistent spell list between its acquisition method and effects, but those effects are amazing. Full party protect and shell, several effective instant death attacks, some great healing spells, some unique debuffs, the level magic. It's got just about everything you could want. Mages are amazing, they're all definitely top tier except Red Mage, but give me a second. Next is Dualcast. Take all that stuff I just said about magic and double it. Casting 2 spells in one turn is insanely overpowered just on the face of it. Even if you just use Dualcast an ability by itself, you still get the Red Mage spell list, which has stuff like Protect and the Aura magic. The Red Mage is not great and takes the longest to master, but the mastery ability is vital for any mage. Except Blue, you can't Dualcast Blue magic for some reason, but that's not a big enough problem for Dualcast to not be insane. Mix requires a bit of work to get going, with their resource being items instead of MP, but Chemist is such an insane support job. It can cast buffs from both White and Time Mage. It has its own insanely overpowered buff in straight increasing someone's level, which by itself could be one of the best moves in the game. It can fully revive someone, it can fully restore all MP, it can make you heavy type, make you immune to the 3 main elements, do insane damage if you decide to go on the offense, and to top it all off, you don't need any stats to use it. Everyone can use it equally well. In my experience, I tend to lean more on the support side, but if you have the patience to grind out turtle shells, dragon fangs, and dark matter, you will not regret it. I mean, just look at this. I really don't need to say more. Gil Toss is insane, and Gil isn't hard to farm in this game. Rapidfire makes you hit 4 random targets, each hit doing half damage. However, those hits ignore defense, ignore evasion, and most difficult encounters in this game are a single enemy. That ignoring defense thing also means that even if you only get 2 hits off on the target you wanted to hit, it still does more damage than a regular attack. It does lose some effectiveness in Necrophobe and Neo X-Death, but it combined with other abilities like Spellblade will totally shred whatever target you're up against. Speaking of, Spellblade is fantastic and held back only by being usable with knives and swords. That isn't actually a big drawback because those are the 2 best weapon types, but it is still a restriction nonetheless. You've got several instant kill abilities, Drain to basically make yourself immortal, free status effects, Flare to amplify your damage dramatically, all for half the MP cost of a regular spell. This is one of my favorite abilities because there's almost no limitation. I think the only thing it's really missing is like Arrow Blade, which could be interesting but not needed. Actually, doesn't Bartz get Arrow Blade in Theatrhythm? That's weird. Dual Wield is the third part of the melee attacker trinity. Being able to attack twice in one turn is as good as it sounds, which is obvious from Dualcast being amazing. This, combined with Spellblade and Rapidfire, makes up this game's pretty infamous meta game, and it was even referenced in Dissidia as Bartz's ultimate move. Amazing ability, and the only downside is that you can't equip a shield, unless you count equipping the Defender or Men Gauche as a shield. Also, I always feel like I'm spelling Wield wrong, no matter what. Honestly, I feel like I should just put Ninja on the list because he has nothing but great stuff, but Throw is great no matter what your job is, kinda like Mix. You can throw weapons you don't need for big damage, and throw scrolls for great party damage. The scrolls are based on your magic stat, but even with a bad one, they still do fantastic damage. It's also one of the very few ways to inflict water damage on things, which is definitely notable. Almost no regular enemy is immune to control, and being able to take out an enemy from the fight is super valuable. And even then, at least one boss isn't immune. It's great for grinding, extremely helpful for getting blue magic, and just generally helpful overall. Not much to say. Despite Beastmaster being a kinda lame job overall, the abilities it does get are pretty great. The devs were very creative with catch in what they decided to give certain enemies, and being able to use enemy-only skills like this is great, even if they're not always what you expect. The things I most use it for are getting a free Mighty Guard from the Crystal in the final dungeon, getting something like an Ironback to slug some guy for thousands of damage, and using 4 Blaze Dragons to instantly kill hard bosses like X-Death. Just make sure to get the Carnago Gourd. The equip weapon abilities are a bit more niche, but they do at least give you the strength stats of whatever job they come from. Equip swords gives you the knight's strength, equip axes gives the berserkers, and so on. So even if you don't use the weapon, the strength boost can be really nice. I also think equip harps gives the bards magic and agility or something. I really don't understand why. I don't think the bard uses his magic stat for anything except maybe the Apollo's harp. Equip shield is particularly notable in that shields are extremely good, and a lot of jobs don't really need a second ability because they're already great as is. Most of the mages come to mind in particular, but yeah, don't sleep on shields. Doublegrip isn't an amazing top tier ability, but I do think it's nice to have sometimes. Melee jobs tend to struggle to keep up in damage if you're not pulling out the dual wield Rapidfire stuff, so Knight can get a sort of band-aid fix in ditching the shield to double the damage. Very simple, but very effective, especially early on with some of the elemental swords. Also, double gripping the Brave Blade makes it stronger than the Chicken Knife. It's pretty easy to sleep on Sing because its effects are a lot more subdued and take longer to happen, but the effects are great. Free full enemy party stop, full ally party regen, lots of damage to undead, and great strength magic speed buffs. The full party stop is especially good because almost every regular encounter in the game is vulnerable to it. As long as you have a bard in the party, you basically never need to worry about regular encounters. Even some bosses aren't immune to it. Regen is kind of a middling status on its own, but the level song increases regen's effectiveness significantly by making it proc more often and heal for more. It is a lesser version of the level mixes, but this one is free and party-wide, so it's nothing to scoff at. I personally don't usually mess with Mimic strats, but I can't deny the effectiveness. I've seen lots of people talk about Mimic Dualcast Bahamut, and yeah, that's pretty great. You can use spells and mixes for free, which I abused heavily in the level 1 run, which only gets ruined if you mastered Monk to get counter. Since Monk has the highest strength and stamina, you do actually want to master it if you want to be fully optimal, but yeah, it has a chance of backfiring since counter makes your next Mimic just a basic attack. That's about what I thought of. You can tell me what you think I missed down in the comments. This definitely isn't a comprehensive list by any means, but most of this stuff is what I think of when I go for optimal Final Fantasy V strategies. But until next time, see ya.